This presentation is on the topic of atonement. It is excerpted from writings by Father Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan priest who has written a number of books and is quite well known for this particular concept of a discussion of atonement. Let's begin with scapegoating. The word scapegoating originated from an ingenious ritual described in Leviticus 16. According to Jewish law, on the Day of Atonement, the high priest laid hands on an escaping goat, placing all of the sins of the Jewish people from the previous year onto the animal. Then the goat was beaten with reeds and thorns, driven out into the desert, and the people went home rejoicing. Violence towards the innocent victim was apparently quite effective at temporarily relieving the group's guilt and shame. The same scapegoating dynamic was at play when European Christians burned supposed heretics at the stake, and when white Americans lynched Black Americans. This identical pattern is totally non-rational. With the mistaken view of God as a punisher in chief that most Christians seem to hold, we think that our own violence is necessary and even good. But there is no such thing as redemptive violence. Violence doesn't save. It only destroys all parties in the short and long term. Jesus replaced the myth of redemptive violence with the truth of redemptive suffering. He showed us on the cross how to hold the pain and let it transform us. What is the meaning of the passion? First, God wasn't angry. To repeat, God wasn't angry. But particularly in fundamentalist theology, you'll often hear it said that God got so fed up with the sins and transgressions of Israel that he demanded a human sacrifice in atonement. But think about it. This interpretation would turn God into a monster. How can Jesus, who is love, radiate and reflect a God who is primarily a monster? How can Jesus do this? How can Christians, theoretically progressing on a path of love, consent to live under a reign of terror? No, we need to bury once and for all these fear and punishment scenarios that got programmed into so many of us during our childhood. There is no monster out there, only love waiting to set us free, which is why God became human and why Jesus died.